If you have some sort of qualities that you would like to see in your partner, ask yourself again, do I have these qualities myself? And mostly the answer is not really and or partially, which is why I'm looking for someone to complete me. And I feel that's all the wrong reasons to get in a relationship.
Become emotionally trustworthy for yourself, and then you can trust your decisions in choosing people. You can trust, how you behave, how you portray yourself. When I trust myself emotionally, I can be vulnerable. When I can be vulnerable and have the discernment, it becomes safe to be vulnerable.
Not blaming other people for not being aware of something that they obviously don't see. It's a blind spot, which is, again, that deserves compassion. Once the blind spot is revealed, if the person chooses to continuously perpetuate that kind of behavior, that's on them. But now it's been revealed and you can become aware of that. Part of me was still running this old story that I'm not worthy. My ex would say oftentimes, I love you and I dearly care about you. And it was very genuine. And I couldn't accept it.
That's always my first question. What is this teaching me? How can I grow? And if I do something, if I find love within it, everybody wins and everybody grows. Even if a relationship ends, the ending doesn't mean that either person was bad, wrong, right? You came into the relationship. When that ends, if you came into it, there was love because you came into it. So you kept it going. If you can leave it with that same love, yeah, hurt feelings, and there's things where you're human and you're having that.
Hello, curious minds. Welcome to another Awake and Aware podcast. We're going to touch on relationships today and relating to self, as in a relationship with yourself, how important that is. And back with me is again Tammy, and we're likely going to make this one a two-part, maybe a three-part, who knows. There's always a lot to be said about relationships, especially with yourself, as the relationships seem like a bit of a enigma for a lot of people. And oftentimes we find ourselves either alone, not being able to find relationship, and sometimes we end up being in relationship that we don't necessarily want to be in, and looking at the relationship as someone to blame outside of myself. So we're going to turn that light back onto ourselves and look at what is potentially doable on our end, and or how do we see the true self, the true essence of ourself, instead of giving into the mind construct that we all are so familiar with. So again, welcome Tammy back to this podcast. Without any further ado, let's get started. So thank you again, Tammy, for joining us today. It's lovely to have you back again. And for those of you who are not familiar, Tammy is a writer and a beautiful soul. And it's always a fun chatting with another soul that has depth. And I truly appreciate that. In today's Awake and Aware podcast, we'll talk about relationships and relating to yourself, relating to others, and how that really works for us or sometimes doesn't work for us.
Well, I think as we were saying a little bit before we started, if we look out at all of our relationships, meaning everything, family, work, friends, everything, we can find anywhere that we have blind spots or whatever we want to call triggers, or any source of anything that we feel, we can find remnants of it in relationships. We can find sources of it. We might say, well, this relationship brings me to these kind of feelings. And I think when we have an intention to stay out of victimhood, it's the most beautiful resource. Because if I'm looking at relationships without being in victimhood, then even if there are relationships that have ended, or maybe there was pain attached to them, it's dissolved. It's dissolved in the love that you chose to be in the ending of it. Because if you're not in victimhood, you're choosing love. So if you've chosen love, then, but I think they can be a guide to transforming anything that we need to transform in our lives.
Beautifully said. Yes, love, as you say, is the transformative agent. And being in a relationship is like, okay, that's reflection. So, what I am, where I am, why is this being reflected to me, through this other person, be it a male or female? Truly just asking yourself the question. I feel from my own perspective that having been in relationships and watching myself be victim in a relationship before, and in some sense also, if you could say, perpetrator in a relationship before,
Mhm.
it's like if you don't reflect on, am I doing this? Is this someone else doing this? If you really aren't observing enough, you can very easily, I feel, slip into these roles, whether it's again the victimhood or being perpetrator, because there's really no such thing. It's just like we're being shown what
Mhm.
it is that we're here to learn. So what's better way to learn it than in relationship with someone else? So when you find a soul in this lifetime that kind of speaks to you, doesn't matter whether it's a person that ends up being a narcissist, for instance, or
Yeah.
person that ends up being the most beautiful relationship that you could ever have, ends up leaving this world too early. They pass or something, they every part of that was here to teach you some sort of a lesson. And if you are open, you will learn a lesson.
Mhm.
And we are not victims in this relationship, in any relationship.
Right.
And we could be, but it really doesn't serve us. So if I would have you speak to something about this and maybe from your own experience, if you're open to that, what would you say about where the relationship that you have with another person is affecting your life, and how that how the relationship with another person affects relation to yourself?
Mhm. I would focus on what is the reflection and what is the effect.
Mhm.
And then that's going to point me to whatever needs to be transformed. So, for instance, if I'm coming from the place of life is here for me, I am love, I'm going to approach life with the intention of being love, being loving, that's going to naturally position me to look for the blessed part in all things that come.
Mhm.
And so, if my default or my reaction isn't a victimhood, because victimhood is okay, defend my case, defend myself. You're wrong. You're attacking me. Why are you doing this to me? You're hurting me. None of that is true. That's not happening. So if there is an effect, it's always pointed back. Look within yourself. It's always in me. Any reaction that I have is within me. And I'm going to use the word victimhood. If you're in a relationship and we're talking about pain, we're talking about abuse, things that there is true and present pain and maybe danger.
Mhm.
Still, with the exception of, an extreme case of being, kidnapped or something, you're not trapped there. You're not a victim unable to. And so, but nor is it like, okay, just run, like stay. There's wisdom in the staying.
Mhm.
Where is this? What is it here to teach me? That's always my first questions. Like, what is this teaching me? How can I grow? And if I do something, if I find love within it, everybody wins and everybody grows. Even if a relationship ends, the ending is doesn't mean that either person was bad, wrong, right. Nobody's right, wrong, bad, good. You came into the relationship. When that ends, if you came into it, there was love because you came into it, so you kept it going. If you can leave it with that same love, yeah, hurt feelings, and there's things where you're human and you're having that. But I don't know if that really answered your question, but I would just say if there is any effect, look deeper at it. It's always
Mm.
about looking within. The answers are within us, and we're not a victim as long as we're looking to our own reaction and where it's coming from.
Beautiful. Thank you for pointing that out, because I feel that it's not super easy, and mainly when we are in it, to point towards where am I actually playing the role of a victim here? And
Mhm.
that's again, as you said, the first one of the triggers that just kind of was
Mhm.
activated. That is a pointing device towards you becoming aware and asking yourself a question. At this point, where does it point back into me? Where does it show about me
Right.
that I'm not accepting and I'm not seeing?
Mhm.
So not basically not blaming other people for not being aware of something that they obviously don't see. It's a blind spot, which is again that deserves compassion. Once the blind
Yeah.
spot is revealed, if the person chooses to continuously perpetuate that kind of behavior, that's on them. But
Right.
now it's been revealed and you can become aware of that.
Mhm.
Once you're aware, most of the times we as this human being default are going to start changing the behavior. It
Right.
is when we are not aware that something is happening that, like, for instance, for myself, when I was when I got married and into the earlier parts of the relationship, even though I was well versed into let's say spirituality, for lack of better word here, and learning about myself, understanding principles of all sorts. I was all
Mhm.
into that. However, part of me was still running this old story that I'm not worthy. My ex would say oftentimes, I love you and I dearly care about you. And it was very genuine. And
Mhm.
I couldn't accept it. Literally just couldn't accept it. It's like, okay, well, why do you love me? You know? And so there would be these questions like, and she would say, I just love you. Not
Yeah.
why, I just love you. I'm like, there's gotta be some sort of a mind trick around this. And I didn't see that. At that time, I just didn't see that was a blind spot for me.
Mm.
That I wasn't allowing this love to actually flow into our relationship. I was saying that I would love, and I felt loving feelings towards this as much as I could at the time. And I was accepting of how we interacted. Oftentimes was difficult, and more oftentimes actually was nice, but I couldn't let it in.
Yeah.
When
Right.
you're in that space, and I think some of the audience may relate to this in the sense of that you're just not seeing sometimes that why would the other person love you? Really, like, can they prove it somehow?
Yeah.
If that happens to any one of the people that are listening, as it happened to me, just start
Mhm.
noticing that that's actually the first trigger,
Yeah.
that you
Right.
start seeing it there. And
Mhm.
then if you have to ask, if you have to question why somebody else loves you, you probably don't love yourself much at all. So the worthiness, and then again, it has direct correlation to being in a relationship. Can you really show up as your best self? You can't because you
Mhm.
don't accept yourself the way you are.
Right.
And with the, like you were saying, good, bad, right, or wrong, those are not things, those are opinions. And can I just show up as I am and say, you know what, kind of unapologetic, just being here,
Mhm.
and say, okay, well, I understand that this is not something that my behavior does you don't appreciate,
Mhm.
and I appreciate that you still love me, even though my behavior didn't really, it was actually out of desperation, and I appreciate that you're sending love even then, and
Yeah.
that's really where the relationship can grow. So if you want to have anything to add to
Yeah.
that.
Well, yeah. So the one part, like you said, if you even have to ask, there's your first notification bell going off, right? Like life is notification bells are going off all the time. Like
Mhm.
the check engine light in the car, whatever's going on, it's a matter of whether we're going to listen to them or not. And the car is going to break down or run out of gas or whatever, and how far you want to push it. But when you listen right away, it's in the first moment of the question, that uh, doubt, that moment when we kind of go like, I don't know. It's there. It's right there in the beginning. And sometimes I've had moments of this where the asking the other person, why do you love me? There's never an answer that's right enough.
Mhm.
Close. They get close. They get close to almost good enough to sort of believe it maybe for a little while.
Mhm.
Just maybe, maybe. But essentially it's like a you're they can't give it to you, and then depending on how deep you are into it, but if you're real low and really in the belief that you're not lovable, when they can't give a direct answer that meets this invisible criteria that really doesn't even exist, that can't be reached, when they can't, it can almost cause like distrust in them. It can
Mm-hmm.
almost it can start like
Mm-hmm.
a seed that we don't see right away,
Mm-hmm.
but we only see it when it grows and when it's like, oh, I feel like I can't trust this person. And then we don't really know why, but we just kind of feel like we don't really trust them. Like something seems missing, which
Mm-hmm.
then makes us feel less attached, more emotionally separate from them, not aligned with them. And then that grows and grows and grows. And so the answer, as always, is to know yourself and to be able to tune in and source it ourselves, because nobody else is to blame for us not having it, even if we were directly told, even if like it's the do it, even if believe it, even if believe you're worthy, even if the most valid, reliable sources told you that you weren't. Maybe, for some people who have been told directly, like, you don't matter, you're nothing, you're whatever. Or, if they were in with somebody in a lot of pain that needed to make them small, well, you got to believe it yourself, or else you can't source it.
Yeah.
You'll just get a little bit for a little while and crumbs, but you can't quite source it. It's like the car's always running out of gas.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's beautifully said again. So just to touch on what you just said was that how do we know that we are worthy, that we are lovable, that we are valuable or whatever? If my parents, as when I was a child, are telling me, or the messaging
Hmm.
makes me think or feel that I am not lovable because otherwise they would accept me as I am, right? Then then I can't really necessarily discern otherwise. And this was one of the things that I just recently heard, and I say heard. I've heard this idea before, but really just sunk in, where the subconscious mind is, let's say, 95% of the total mind, and then the conscious mind is about 5%. So the 95% is basically our habits, our beliefs, our behaviors, and whatever else is in there, basically, that we have established since we were born. And so a lot of these things again that we find as a blind angle is because we don't remember these beliefs that we have established as a child, for instance. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is where the real work comes, as people sometimes do the inner child work or shadow work or
Hmm.
whatever other reframing, etc.,
Hmm.
in order to notice where, let's say, belief was established, and that I have decided that somehow I am not good enough, and or I am not lovable, because if I was, my parents would give me the love that I felt I deserved. So I just wanted to say to this that when I heard a few years ago one lady say on one of the podcasts I was watching or something else that you are lovable, you are enough, you are valuable or worthy just because you are. Just because you are here, just because you are, you exist. And thus, you have, as you point often towards, you have the innate essence, the love in you. So the soul already knows that, recognizes that. Where we get tripped, I feel, is the mind construct has created something over this truth, let's just say. And so you don't see the truth anymore. So then any of your behavior is based off of this construct, the mind construct. And so with that, maybe how do we relate to ourselves before we get into relationship? Is there some sort of tip, some idea that you have behind this? Again, I think we're just unpacking the idea that you already are love. We could just stop there, probably, right? And
Yeah.
just realizing, yeah, you are love. Okay, end of the podcast. See you
Yeah.
guys, right? But maybe to some of the more complex minds out there, short of realization that, oh my gosh, You exist, and that's why you deserve to be here. You deserve the love. You don't have to apologize for your existence to anyone.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think so. Initially there's a just a pause when you realize that you're asking the question or you're looking for something that you feel like you don't have. But within that pause is a self inquiry of looking at the criteria that is based on the comparisons that you're making that have formed your determination that somehow you're not.
hmm
Because in order to think, believe, to come up with some idea that you're not, well, okay, where did it come from? Where did it come from?
hmm
And then go and look where it came from. Like, where's the criteria? This invisible criteria, this list of standards that I don't know, maybe was handed out to us in the nursery when we were born, of like, okay, if you do all these, then right now you're an infant and you're worthy. You were just
hmm
born. You're
hmm
pristine, you're worthy and precious, and okay, here's the criteria. And as long as you do all of these, then you'll remain lovable. That
hmm
list doesn't exist. That list is created by us because of the comparisons. So we're looking out. And so the fact that we're looking out, that's the notification that, okay, wait, something's not aligned here. Let's look at this.
hmm
Um and then it's slowly, gently, without blame and without victimhood, you look at that criteria. You'll see it. Like, you'll see when you do it. You'll see it in life. It's around certain people. Oh, I'm tense around certain people, or I seem like I feel like I have to put a mask on when I'm here. Um, I have to effort to be a certain way when I'm around this group of people. Oh,
hmm
when I go here, I always feel nervous when I go to that gathering. Or like, if you just listen to your body and you watch it, observe it, you'll see the trails that you go down. And as
hmm
soon as you see them, then you go and reconcile them. And so it's all the stuff that everybody's talking about that's so simple. It's the self love. It's, slow down and just be with yourself in it. Just sit and pause first and realize, like, okay, wait, I feel like I'm not worthy. I feel like I'm not measuring up. Whatever it is, just sit with it. But sit with it without anything else. Not, okay, I'm going to find out where it was so then I can go blame that person. Oh, I'm going to find out, yeah, it was my great uncle on my father's side that said such a, and I'm going to go to him, and then I'm going to go and talk to him, and I'm going to go. Nothing to do with any other people or anything. It's you and you. And so you sit and you look to yourself, not who said that to me, who did that to me. Look within and see where you feel it, and then go to that and serve yourself with it. It's
Mm.
internal. It's an inside job.
Yeah, it's like where have I created it? Because
Yes.
of what I've heard,
Right.
and I have made up the story that it's this way. It wasn't per se them doing or them saying anything. They just said words. And as Peter Crow likes to point out, like if it was in different language, you'd be like, okay, that was weird.
Yeah.
Didn't get that. Maybe energetically you would understand something in
Hmm.
that sense. But again, thank you for pointing that out because this I feel is super crucial, super important idea behind this is that yes, we need awareness
Hmm.
and because that's the first step really to you even asking these questions.
Hmm.
Where am I holding back? Where am I sabotaging myself? Where am I accepting that I'm not good enough? Where am I not loving myself enough? Whatever the question is. And I
Yeah.
feel that the answer lies in where have I created this story and how did that story serve me over time? And
Mhm.
am I ready now to drop that story?
Exactly. And I think something I try to remember too is that the people, places, and things that we say, oh, they said this or this happened and then I feel this, they didn't create the story that you carried. So somebody says something and then They say something and walk away and then go on with their life.
Yeah.
And then if we walk away and we're like, oh, and it's bothering us, and then we're upset by it and we're reactive to it, they didn't do anything. They just woke something up that's in us. So nobody's poking our nerve. Nobody's testing us. Nobody's poking at our wound.
Mm-hmm.
It's us. And so if we keep looking at them as the source, it never gets healed. You might end that relationship or that friendship, and then you'll, sure enough, go on and get the same again
Yep. Yep.
because you didn't transform it. And so if you sit and look at it and the willingness to transform it within yourself and not blame, and yet fine, if it's the best thing to leave a relationship, of course, like for both people, if it's best, but do so with the goodness that came from it, not the wrongness and the badness. Because if you're aligned in the love of yourself, you never need to defend doing something self-loving.
Mm-hmm.
So if a person decides, okay, yeah, it's time to leave this relationship, okay, all due respect, like, no, I'm not disrespecting marriage, relationships, or anybody, or saying that it's easy. But if we have to, and that's the best thing, if we're aligned in the love that we are and we're operating in the intention of love and towards our highest good, which then defaults to the highest good of all, then we don't have to defend our reasons. We only defend our reasons by, well, look at, they did this, and can you believe they did that, and can you believe they did da, 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 and the list of what they did wrong or what was wrong with the job that you had to leave. Okay, it's time for me to leave. What if we could transition without the list of all the reasons for everything that was wrong? And you don't need those when you're operating in love. You don't they're not needed. You don't have to defend anything because there's nothing to defend. It's love.
Yes. Yes. That is, I love that, that's always kind of like where we end in this at
I
the
know.
like part of the sequences anyway within a sequence is that really comes down to that, to
Yeah.
loving essence, just being in that state of being.
Yeah.
And when there's something, like you said, there's a list of things that you don't appreciate about your partner or something, you
Mhm.
can be guaranteed that is your mind's construct talking. Okay. So if you interested in, yeah, something else, something to change, absolutely. You can inform your partner and say, hey, maybe we could try this, whatever it is that you want to try. If it
Mhm.
lands with them, they may be open. Great. If it
Right.
doesn't, just know that this is your mind asking to change something, kind of like a little 5-year-old throwing a tantrum
Yeah.
in some sense, oftentimes anyway, is that the mind has a lot of opinions. It will always tell you its opinions. And love is there to just kind of just standing there or sitting there and just accepting everything that comes. If
Yeah.
you're in that state of being, you probably don't have any problems, and you're probably not watching this podcast. So, and
Right.
on the other hand, it's like, yes, it is easier said than done to be in this loving state, but how do I practice it? How do I get to it? Like, again, back to how do I relate to myself? Okay. And as you pointed out earlier also is that knowing yourself. So I love the quote, know thyself. I think I've been floating around for a little bit these days, but
Yeah.
knowing yourself to be able to identify what really you care about, what you don't care about. And this is again, you can talk about preferences that the mind has created. And if
Yeah.
you're in a state of loving thyself, you're at that state of being, you don't have preferences per se. Yeah. And it's
And
just,
there's no trying.
you're not trying exactly. Mm-hmm.
There's there's no trying to do anything
Yeah.
because love is the great conductor, transformer, like the flow. It's all of it. And so if love is a river and it's flowing, then anything that happens is going to come into that river and flow. So you're putting yourself into it, and you know crisis can happen, and trials, and really difficult stuff can happen. But I think of it like when I'm in the complete state of love and this flow, and I'm aligned and centered and grounded, I'm still, I'm quiet, I'm moving at the pace, but I'm still. And so trials can come if I'm not still. Trials used to come, stop and sit right in front of me and stare me in the face and like attach to me, and they're just here, and they're just, you try to move and you can't get away from it. But being in the flow, the trials still come, but they don't stop. They keep going because you are the flow. So they're
Hmm.
coming because, we need the lessons and we need wisdom, and we don't expand unless we have um, trials and things. And, we never know how to reason things out, or how to have compassion, or how to compromise, or we would know nothing of that if we never had any trials. But
Hmm.
trials can either come into the flow of your life and merge and bring what they need to bring the wisdom, and move into the flow with you, or they stop and cause a dam to happen, and you're blocked. So they can be
Hmm.
a block, or they can just come into flow with you. That's
Hmm.
all up to us though.
100%. And I love your what you shared also in the book club in the group about watching the stream of the water moving through the rocks. And then that's kind of like the turbulent way of being that life sometimes happens that way. Just
Mhm.
sometimes the shit goes down and you
Yeah.
just kind of have to be in it and just feel it.
Mhm.
And eventually those rocks dissipate and you move into a more of a still waters. And then
Mhm.
now you're embracing, the stillness of the water flowing, and or perhaps some days you may get a little stagnant as the water sometimes does. And
It's
so
true.
again, temporary states, all temporary states, and that's the beauty
Yeah.
of life in that sense.
Mm.
I love that analogy, by the way, so thank you for sharing that.
It depends where you are. Like, I have another one that I use
Uh-huh.
all the time, is that so like a really like rapids, really turbulent, rapid water flowing and rocks and just white water, rapids. So if if you fell out of your boat, if you were kayaking and you fell out of your boat and you're in this rat in the water, all you're doing is trying to stay alive. You're
Mhm.
watching for the rocks. You're trying to keep your head above water, and you're trying to avoid the rocks that come. You're just trying to keep your head above water and survive. It's a stressful, traumatic, dangerous, life-threatening situation if you're in the rapids.
Mhm.
But if you're on a bridge watching water, it's quite peaceful. It sounds peaceful. It even looks peaceful. I find it enjoyable to watch. I do it all the time. Sit on the bank or sit on a bridge and watch. So in life, I think of it that way, like stay on the bridge, know where you are, be grounded. If you want to get in the water, make sure that you're prepared, and you're able to take care of yourself. So when you need to go in to trials and situations that are stressful, or maybe even dangerous, or whatever, you can prepare yourself for it. You're not just going to jump in and just carelessly. You love yourself enough to be prepared, not to fear the water, never go near the water because it's turbulent. So it's all our choice though, whether we're on the bridge, whether we're on the shore, whether we dive in, whether we prepare. It's all up to us, and our life will follow suit according to the decisions that we make of where we are. It's all
Mhm.
self responsibility once we awake and aware.
Yes, as long as we're aware, as long as we're really awake to life, just to ourselves, to where we are, what we're doing,
Yeah.
choices become a little bit more easy. And again, speaking of choices, we came here to understand the choices we've already, in some sense, made.
Hmm.
So, and I love the quote from The Matrix, and it's just ever so poignant. Next thing I wanted to touch briefly onto is that one of the things that I have done as I've started contemplating was that I wrote a list of things that, for instance, that I would like to find in my next partner. List of
Okay.
qualities, for instance, and then the question followed by, let's say it's a, list of 10 qualities. Can I do all those? Am I embodying all these qualities myself?
Mhm.
And, of course, the first one was, yeah, of course. Well, of course, of course, of course. And a second look at it is like, well, sometimes,
Yeah.
um, mm, yeah, maybe not as much, so starting with yourself again. So again, when I was talking about relating to yourself, is in the sense that if you have some sort of qualities that you would like to see in your partner, ask yourself again, do I have these qualities myself? And mostly the answer is not really and or partially, which is
Mhm.
why I'm looking for someone to complete me. And I feel that's all the wrong reasons to get in a relationship.
Mhm.
And I feel the understanding of yourself, what do you have, what you don't have, what you want, and why you want it,
Mhm.
makes
Yep.
it makes it important to understand before you actually go into relationship. And then
Mhm.
once you get into relationship, once you have embodied this feeling into being a good listener, let's say,
Mhm.
in relationship, which is one of the things where most of us stumble, right? Because we all have our own truths, and I want to say how somebody hurt me, and here I am a victim again.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's good to say stories sometime and it kind of like how something felt to you. That was your experience. Excellent to share that. And understanding that this was your experience because of how you have related to that particular event or person.
Mhm.
And then how do you relate to person or experience? That's again dictated by the subconscious mind because that's predominantly active in
Mhm.
all of our responding. So
Mhm.
how I respond is either triggered or just, pleased by something is
Mhm.
up to the subconscious mind. And if I don't know what's in there, yeah, I'm gonna have a lot of surprises happen, which again is okay as long as you understand that that's the way that you chose to live. And so I would
Yeah.
say, I mean, is there something that perhaps some sort of an exercise for yourself that you might have done that you decided perhaps your next or current relationship, what you would expect from that? And was there something that you have kind of approached them similarly?
Yeah. So, well, I have the same practice, and I encourage it all the time.
Mhm.
If I'm working with clients, I always encourage that, like, be what you want to receive. And
Mhm.
it's really, I mean, I just think that fits all the time. I'm kind of a broken record with that, but I know that for me, it keeps me centered. If I'm consciously thinking about what I want more of and thinking about being that, then yay, like life is good. So, yeah, I mean, so everything that you said is pretty much, I practice that too. And going into all the whys, because we can take the, okay, have them complete me, play with those words a little bit, because there's a certain merging that can happen. I used to be very closed minded or limited in my thinking, that a partner needed to be aligned, but I was unrealistic about how much. And I realized that when I was doing that years ago, I was not holding the belief in who I was. Because if I think that somebody else needs to be a certain way so that I can be fully me, I'm victimizing myself if the relationship doesn't work, and I could go there. But it's showing me where my belief is in who I am.
Mhm.
And to the other person's defense, it's putting all that responsibility on them to
Yeah.
make sure that I am comfortable being my true, authentic, genuine self. So, you know,
Yeah,
I mean,
for
listen,
sure.
sometimes, it's hard not to look away when you look in the mirror and you're doing mirror work, and you sit and you face the depth of that kind of thinking where it all falls back on you, and essentially realizing that you are the whole problem, and looking in the mirror and be like, here you are.
Mhm.
um but the whys, what am I asking of someone else, why, and how much? To some extent, we need to be compatible. I mean, there's basic compatibility with somebody,
Mhm.
but if you're merging with someone that just isn't as versed as you are, but is open to knowing more, That's very different than positioning yourself with people who disrespect who you are and say, "What's the
Mhm.
matter with you? That's crazy. What do you mean? What do you?" In the smirk and the eye roll and the like, "Oh God," that.
Yeah.
That's different, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't believe in yourself, you're going to find the ones that are the eye rollers and try to be better at being you so that they don't roll their eyes at you anymore, which is never going to happen because they're just not aligned. They're not bad, they're just not into it. Maybe they don't want to talk about love and things you want to talk about. It doesn't make them bad, they just have different interests.
Yeah.
If I think that I can't be me because somebody doesn't like a line or thinks it's silly or whatever, has a problem with it, criticizes it, then that's so unfair to do to myself and the world, really. And to put that responsibility on somebody else, it just points you to doing it, tune in and believe it yourself. I know that sounds simple, but
Yeah, and it is simple,
yeah,
but it's just not easy.
not easy.
So yeah, and I love that you mentioned all these little details. They're like little nuggets here. That's awesome. I feel sometimes we get into relationships and we don't, let's say, go through the dating period long enough to realize that the person that we're dating is reflecting the deepest corners of our limited self, of our hurt self. And that may end up being what we refer to oftentimes as narcissistic relationship. And so sometimes you don't see that because, especially regarding the narcissistic behaviors, they don't show up right away. And they oftentimes don't show up for a year, even. Sometimes the person being a better con man can act in relationship for a long period of time as though, they're the most loving and wonderful person. And then at one point you find out that that was all a lie in some sense, and they only care about themselves. And I'm sure that some audience have found themselves in that kind of a situation before, and
Mm-hmm.
or people may have realized that they themselves became to act upon the behavior that the narcissist would have, or narcissistic behavior. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was wondering if you can maybe touch a little bit on what your opinion is around that. What would be good for us to maybe just spend a little bit more time and paying attention to sometimes people say red flags, and I still like to say that oftentimes, but just pay attention to like how they say what they say and how they mean and what you feel. There's a lot of times it's very easy to be deceived by something that someone just says, and we turn off this trust detector. We turn it
Mm-hmm.
off too early and kind of end up winding ourselves into a relationship that we didn't want to be. And on the other end of that, so my question is a little long here, but on the other end of that is that if I'm attracting a person into a relationship that has narcissistic tendencies, what does it say about me? Where do I fall into that? Back to your responsibility, taking responsibility for who you are, for the thoughts that you have, for the feelings that you have, for the words that you say, for the how you move in life, how you accept yourself, how you embrace life. Maybe you can
Yeah.
speak to that a little
Yeah.
bit.
So for me, the starting point is as soon as it's realized, the starting point is, okay, where's the part in me that attracted that, right? Because if there's not a magnet of something in me, then it wouldn't come to me. Then the other source part, which, a lot of people don't want to hear, more often than not in my experience, is spend time with yourself first. Because that's going to be it's not going to be a guarantee that it doesn't happen, but when it does, when you get into relationships, whether it's another intimate relationship or whether it's a job, any relationship, when those behaviors do come out, you have discernment and you are able to discern and take action without reacting.
Hmm.
Like, so it takes out the reaction because you're grounded in the truth. So become emotionally trustworthy for yourself, and then you can trust your decisions in choosing people. You can trust, how you behave, how you portray yourself. When I trust myself emotionally, I can be vulnerable. When I can be vulnerable, and have the discernment, it becomes safe to be vulnerable. Because until then, being vulnerable is the last thing you're going to do if you're pretty sure that you're attracting people that have tendencies and they're in pain and they have tendencies to do these things that we call narcissistic traits and behaviors and all of that, especially if it's familiar,
Mhm.
because there's parts of it that are familiar. And if you've been, maybe you've had a lot of relationships, maybe there's been childhood stuff.
Mhm.
The time alone sorts that out. So the time alone, solitude, it doesn't have to be 5 years, and it doesn't have to be on a mountaintop. Like some time every day that you take that you're in solitude, that's what grounds you and you become emotionally trustworthy. It's in that safe space where you stretch out and explore. Yeah, wow, I see that I kind of have a pattern with that, or I lean towards that.
Mhm.
I accept this. We'll accept what we believe we're worthy of, always. And so it needs to start with, what am I worthy of? Because that's where our acceptance bar is going to be in terms of what we allow, meaning with other people and relationships. And so I mean, it's the groundedness in self. I know I keep going back to it, but like that's your GPS. You don't have, it's the tank full of gas. It's like you don't worry about your journey if the car is strong and it's well maintained and it has a full tank of gas in it, and you've looked at the map and you know how many miles you have to go, and you know how many miles you can get to a tank of gas. Like, okay, you can enjoy the journey. There might be rough roads, you might hit storms, you might get a flat tire. Okay. But if you're centered and grounded and you're full, your tank is full, then the journey will bring what it brings. So it's not about like it's going to be seamless, and if it's not seamless, it's bad, or I did something wrong, or they did something wrong, or whatever. That stuff all goes away when you're grounded in your own self-awareness, acceptance, self-responsibility. You're able to discern. And so it's less, but when it does come, it's just a lesson, and you can say, okay, like if I'm balanced and grounded and something difficult happens, I'm much more able to say, okay, like after you get up, if it knocks the wind out of you, like, okay, you get back up and you're on your feet again, and you're getting some air in your lungs, like you kind of look around like, okay, it's onward into the solution and into better. But if
Mhm.
you're not grounded, it takes a lot longer to get up off the ground, once you've been knocked down.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, you have more bandwidth.
Yeah.
When you have rested, you have good sleep, you have good food, etc. You have been alone as much as you need to be alone, whatever it takes, right? To put you in that state of, okay, I'm at peace with what is right now. You have
Mhm.
more bandwidth, you have more energy, right? So when
Mm.
there is more energy, more bandwidth, you have a lot more space to create for something that feels so heavy and so difficult. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So I love that you pointed out. Thank you. In this world that we have and relating to, again, to ourselves, relating to other people, we are
Mm.
obviously always in some sort of relationship, whether we are relating to what we have gone through in our own life, relating
Mm.
to our traumas or the traumas that happened that we assign a meaning to, or relating to what we're going to be doing at some point.
Yeah.
Essentially, we are relating to everything and everyone in present moment. And
Mm.
while we sometimes go to the past to take something, a lesson from the past to relay it on the present somehow that we feel protected, or we go to the future to ask, is this going to be something that I want in my life? Again, it's a projection. It may be a helpful tool temporarily, but in the end, again, coming back to when you know yourself, who you are, how you behave, what you're working on, you understand that asking someone else in the relationship to have these qualities that you want. The reason you want these qualities is because you don't have them yourself, likely. And or if you do have them to a certain level, maybe you feel like you don't have enough of them. Again,
Mhm.
at which point you can question, why do I feel like I'm not enough? So this is like a loop. And oftentimes the something that cuts straight through all this stuff of the mind, of the perception that we have about ourselves or other people is just, what does it take for me to be in a state of love? And then can I look at what I'm dealing with from that angle now? What does it take for me to do that?
Yep.
Being in that state of acceptance and love and compassion and towards myself, especially, and then
Mhm.
thus also towards other people. Because when I'm in that state of being, as I said, the bandwidth is there, the energy is there. There's not something that would somehow take you off kilter in some
Right.
sense.
Yeah. So well said. And it's something else we hear all the time, like, well, talking about relationships, well, do you like being with yourself?
Yeah.
Like, we say, so talk back to your point about making a list. Like, okay, well, so for me, one of the things on my list that's way, way at the top is just being able to be in presence with someone
Hmm.
without anything else.
Hmm.
Meaning,
Without agenda.
can we just sit still?
Yeah.
Right. Do we have to be doing something? Does something need to be happening or taking place
Yeah.
to somehow mark that, okay, yep, it's good. Everything's good now. Like we're in love and everything's good and it's good. Okay. Okay, now I can go relax because now I just made sure that everything's okay. Everybody loves each other. Everybody feels like they're loved. Okay, now I can go. No, can we just be and be relaxed? And so often, I'll sit with someone and for me, that was something I never like alone. Like I'm good with it. It's more for me. I have to intentionally be out because I love solitude and I love nature and I've always been very, very comfortable being by myself.
Yeah.
But if someone has to keep themselves busy and telling them to be alone, they like fall out of their chair, their eyes get as big as golf balls. I mean, I've watched it happen. They're like, I mean, you'd think I just sentenced them to, some traumatic thing and told them like I'm going to take away all their food and their friends and their family. Like, no. And they just get like fear moves through them at the thought.
Yeah.
Yet they've just told me that they just want to be able to be still and quiet with their partner.
Hmm.
But you can't be still and quiet with yourself. And so are you a person that's like you can ask yourself like am I a cool person to be, alone with, to take a walk, and can I take a walk in the woods and not say anything?
Hmm.
Like, can we both just walk through the woods and take everything in? And
Hmm.
can I say I want to be able to express whatever I'm feeling? I don't need agreement. I don't need somebody to feel the same way. I don't need them to see the formation I see in the trees that looks like a heart or looks like some. I don't need anybody to even see it. But I do require that I'm not shamed or judged or, like, ugh, that's so stupid. You're just crazy. Like put down because of it. So you don't have to agree with me, but like, can we just walk around and can it be like a really exciting thing that we saw a butterfly or like whatever,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Just something
Absolutely.
like that. That's what I
Mhm.
mean by just being present with somebody. We
Hmm.
don't need something to happen. We don't
I
need,
love that.
yeah,
Yeah, I love that. It's like when you are in presence of someone else, if you are okay with yourself, being who you are, again, like you pointed out, important to be in solitude at some point in your lifetime to figure out who you are. Once I know who I am, what
yeah,
I prefer, what I don't prefer, it doesn't matter. But I know who I am, then you can know who you are with the other person. If you
right.
don't know who you are, and then you put another person on top of that, now you're really confused. So having that opportunity or creating even that opportunity for yourself to be in solitude enough that you know who you are. And I know that in our society, being in solitude is basically taken as a punishment, right? Go take time out, right? For kids. Or you did something wrong, you did something bad, go to prison, be on your own.
Yeah.
So in some sense, it's taken as a punishment in today's society. So then being in solitude, I love the word in that sense because you're not being lonely, but you're being in solitude. You are far from lonely in solitude, by the way, for those of you who haven't experienced that.
Hmm.
But it's important to get the glimpse of who you are, how you are with yourself before you launch yourself into next relationship.
Hmm.
Because as you were saying before, if you go from one relationship to the next, you're going to just find more of what you just left.
Yes.
And if that's what you want to do over and over and over again, if that feels good to you or if it feels like a way of learning, then do it. There's no judgment around that.
Wrong.
Just know that that's going to kind of loop around a little bit before you can actually establish that, hey, this is actually fulfilling. This is actually fun. I'm looking forward to this. And
Hmm.
then when you're with someone, if you enjoy time on your own and you're with someone that you don't enjoy their time for that moment, like they're upset about something, and granted, I hope that you can be there and make space for them to hold the space for them and just be with them anyway. But if you wanted to, you could leave. Let's say that you have a low bandwidth and they're
Hmm.
now in difficult position and you really don't have enough bandwidth to support them, then yes, find solitude yourself until you do have the bandwidth and then come back. You can say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry I kind of abandoned you. I really didn't feel strong enough to feel into you and not let myself be taken by the grief that you're feeling. So I wanted to
Hmm.
be stronger for you and then just be here and stand here with you. So now I feel better. I take it as an invitation. If you're interested, I'm open to hear you out. And I feel like this is so important in not just, men hearing out women, but women hearing out the men or in
Sure.
mixed couples relationships, whatever it is, right? So just hearing the other person out, being with them, experiencing their reality for a moment.
Hmm.
Just like you said, standing there, being still, just absorbing their energy.
Yeah. And, some things like just tactical things that I do or that I would suggest is when you know yourself, you're grounded and you're in that solitude where, yeah, it's not loneliness, it's pleasant, it's actually a place of recharge.
Yes.
It's plugging in your battery. Like, it's not shutting down, shutting out. It's going within, it's putting yourself in the presence of love. And when you're starting a relationship, I think an important question to ask in the beginning is to ask a potential partner, how do you process? I'm an internal processor and solitude, and I'll process and then I'll come out and I'll think. It's not brooding or pouting or
Mhm.
anything like that. It's I'm going within to consult the highest court that I know, which
Mhm.
is love, right?
Yeah.
But if you're with someone who is not that way, that's
Hmm.
going to feel like abandonment,
Hmm.
right? And so if they don't process that way and they're a talker from the start and they're like, no, let's sit together and let's, go at this, they're going to take your action of solitude, mine in this case, of, it was frightening to them, me going away because they weren't secure within themselves. So, but when you're secure, there's more potential that you can offer it to somebody too. You feel like it feels safe to be around somebody who's secure in who they are and
Hmm.
they're okay. Like, if I know that I'm not going to be held responsible for taking care of somebody's emotions.
Hmm.
I'm in it. I'm there. I'm here. I can hold space. I'm grounded. I'm steady. I'm sure I'm there. But if I know that they're holding me responsible for fixing them, healing them, making them feel better, having the answers, any of that, that's not steady. That's
Hmm.
like, it's pressure for number one for me, but it can't sustain, it can't
Hmm.
survive because
Yeah.
it's just going to be a drain because I can't give it to you. So then the person's going to think I'm not giving to them or I don't care. It's going to look like I don't care about them and that I'm
Hmm.
abandoning, betraying, leaving them. But it's like, it's all our own responsibility, everything.
I love that. And coming to conclusion with our today's talk, I love that you brought that up is again, I mean talking about responsibility in relationship to yourself, to others in relationship.
Yeah.
And then if we don't feel safe, we like to give responsibility to someone else. So again, claiming a responsibility
Mm-hmm.
is to notice that where you don't feel safe,
Yeah.
recognizing, observing that this behavior doesn't make me feel safe. Why is that? Because my parents, one of my parents, both of my parents did this and it felt unsafe. So it didn't feel like love. Okay. So now where am I emulating this behavior with my partner, or where is my partner helping in sense, quote unquote, me to heal this within me?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes what may feel like is our partner does something to us, it may be for our own good in sense that there's a lesson to be learned for us. And it doesn't ever feel that way, ever, really. So it always feels like somebody's attacking us, especially our
Yeah.
partner, right?
Yeah.
And if the attack happens, can I make a step back and just create a little bit of space, literally and figuratively, both, in creating a space, pause the talk, take a breath. Can I get my physiology back to feel what's just happened? I just got stabbed, kind of thing. It felt like that.
Yeah.
Can I be with that moment? Just let myself feel it and release it.
Yeah.
My partner, be it that they love me, didn't mean to probably fully on hurt me.
Yeah.
It might have happened as a result of something that they have felt and or perhaps me being ready to receive this lesson,
Yeah.
I would say. And so as that happens, I have a then choice if I step off slightly, I have a choice then to act as in, okay, that was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me feel that I feel inadequate. I feel unsafe with you. Say it out loud. What was that experience that you had? Okay. And then once you say it out loud, you hear yourself saying it. I felt unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
And then part of you may realize that, hey, you know what? I know you love me. I love you. And so
Yeah.
why am I feeling unsafe about this? This is kind of silly, but it felt unsafe to me. So where did that come from? Like you were saying earlier, why did that happen? What's the why, right? um, Becoming the observer of the situation that's happening in the current moment.
Mm-hmm.
And because otherwise we end up choosing again and again relationships or people that are going to continue to give us these opportunities. If we can discover it on our own, great.
Yeah.
And then once you have
Yeah.
kind of like clear your house. So that's one of the last things I want to talk about is like, can I clear my own house of all the constraints that I have created? And then come to relationship with let's say clean house, however clean it is clean for you. You know, some of us are more neat freaks than others, and
Mm-hmm.
however clean that may feel to you, your house. Okay, if your
Yeah.
house doesn't look all that clean, you don't want to necessarily invite anybody over, right? And you're not doing this because you should. You're doing this because you love and appreciate yourself
Mm-hmm.
and you feel motivated to make this change, okay? Because it's fun, perhaps, or something like that, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Can you maybe touch on that a little bit? How do you feel about, making space and clearing your own space and basically kind of like you gave that example before when we were talking time before that you clearing the soil to have the
Mm.
seed blossom. Could you speak to that a little bit, maybe?
Yeah. Love will always create space. That's that's always for
Mm,
sure. We
mhm,
clutter it with the cords that attach us to things. I always think of layers, through
mhm,
life. There's layers of stuff, layers, cords, just the attachments.
mhm,
But love is always the at the base and underneath it all. Self-love ignites the decision and the intention to choose love. That ignites and lets the love that you are know, like it calls it in.
mhm,
So as soon as you have an intention, okay, I'm in a position, I'm feeling uncomfortable, I'm feeling whatever the emotion is that is not love, that you're transforming, If you access that and you light it, it's like lighting a fire. It's from within, and it's from within, it's going to burn or light, and it's going to dissolve up through the layers. And as it does, it's a filter. So you're left with the wisdom of the experience, but the constraint of the cord or the weight of the layer is gone. So you're left with the wisdom, but the space is open. And so, like an air purifier in the house, it's purifying the air, it's cleaning the air. I made space, there's space in the house, but it could go for anything. I mean, cleaning your closet out, like create space. And by the way, like doing this literally will make it'll make it start to happen. And when love is filling up the space that you are and you've created that, you're strengthened. So now you're strong and you're brave enough to communicate. And the communication is what dissolves, solves, transforms things, right? Like, for instance, if I'm in a relationship with someone and we have a strong difference in opinion, like something that's really solid, that's a big deal, and so it's something that we need to come to some kind of a middle ground with. It's big enough that we need to talk about it. The more frightened defensiveness that's coming up for me, I'm going to lean in and ask more about it. Like, I'm going to go towards it. And what that looks like is asking them to teach me about making myself a student to them, sitting down and saying, okay, I'm here. I love you. I want this relationship to work. I care about our relationship. I want to do things that are going to support it. Teach me. Why do you feel that way? Why?
Help me understand, right?
What formed it? Teach me about it. Maybe there's a perspective about this topic that I don't know. Maybe you could uncover something, and I'm willing to change. I'm not locked in. Even I believe in it, whatever my stance is. But I think if we're willing to do that, it takes a lot of courage and bravery, because you're making yourself vulnerable to this thing that's a big disagreement. So you're kind of like exposing yourself, making yourself vulnerable for them to come in. But I mean, if you can't go to your partner in love and have them respond in love, then, there's a bigger discussion that needs to happen, maybe. I mean, really, not to
Makes
be
sense.
like flippant about it, but if I feel like I can't bring something to somebody,
Yeah.
we're not there. What is it then? What do we have
Yeah.
then? If
Yeah,
I
then
feel like I
it's
can't
not
talk,
relating, basically.
right? Yeah. Yeah. So right there's your, okay, where's the problem? I got okay, well, there it is. Like, it's right there in front of you. And sometimes it's like, somebody comes in maybe and they're talking about, yeah, I don't know, every time we try to talk, we get into an argument, or, there's just tension all the time and we just can't seem to come to an agreement.
Yeah.
Well, okay, did you talk about everything? Did you lay it all? Oh no, I can't talk about that.
Yeah.
So you want to resolve something and come together, but you're too afraid to talk to this person about it. So you can't use words and communicate with this person that you're intimate with, that you want to have an intimate life with.
Yeah.
Start there.
Yeah, exactly. Because it comes back again down to feeling unsafe. Whether it's them feeling unsafe, they can't listen to you, or you can't listen to them feeling
Right.
unsafe.
Yeah.
Something is going to conspire somehow.
Yeah.
Mind is warning us that what they're saying, I'm going to feel unsafe because whatever they're saying doesn't directly coincide or correlate to the, let's say, limiting belief that I may have in my mind construct and concepts that I have created. So again, it's just these are opinions, and so like you were saying beautifully that if I'm really in relationship with someone I want to be with, then making yourself vulnerable is the way to change.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's just the way. That's the way. And does it hurt? Yep.
Yeah.
Because it's an ego death. Again, it's like the
Mhm.
ego gets hurt. This is not obviously something physical that you know somehow your life is in threat. I mean, maybe. And if that's the case, you might want to actually consider leaving that relationship, because
Right.
if that's the case, that's already too late. That's already past the any kind of red flags that I would call.
Right.
And
Right. Sure.
you know,
Oh,
so
absolutely. And that's yeah, like there again, back to, there's a choice, right? So someone, maybe, a woman comes and sits before me and says, no, like this one thing, I can't bring up this topic because, my partner goes into rage and I'm frightened and I'm afraid. And,
yes.
oh, okay. So if that's the case, then she has a choice to leave.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes the biggest strength is in the leaving. It's
Mhm.
leaving, and again, like, I mean, you can leave with integrity, and you can leave even if somebody's mad at you. You can be in integrity with yourself about making choices, but yeah, you're not, again, not a victim. That could
Right.
open up the other, okay, well, why do you stay? Why is it okay
Yeah.
to stay in something? Because you're not trapped. Like, yeah, it might be hard, it might cost money, and it might be a whole big mess to
Yeah.
leave someone,
Yeah.
but if you're willing to stay, it's not because it's messy. What do
Yeah.
you There's other stuff, and you're abandoning yourself and your own true nature and what's best for you, and you can't use your voice or talk to this person.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you don't get much higher level abandonment than that, right? Then I can't speak my mind. I can't talk about certain subjects.
Yeah.
That's settling and crumbs and all that, and although you can look at all those choices of why you stay.
Yeah, for sure. And then, I don't want to also underplay anybody's situation, because some people may really have difficult situation and really feel like they have no way out.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom saying, when we were little, there was four of us kids, and um, she really didn't have any the means to leave, basically, and just felt very trapped in the relationship. And so how do you deal with that? And so then there is the fear, of course, that the husband or the wife or whoever that feels as a perpetrator, perhaps even physically is abuser or something, may find you if you leave, and so how do you deal with that fear, right? So to me, it's a lot more about, can I start seeing the life that I want in my mind before it even happens? Can I start feeling what my life would look like if that was the case? And in that way, you start seeing your life differently.
Yeah.
Maybe, just maybe, that other person might also notice something's different, and either they will leave because they're not getting you upset anymore as they like to, because not much has kind of again throws you off kilter
Yeah.
anymore, because you kind of just let that go because you realize that you are worthy. Or they might get to the point where they might actually end up changing
Yeah.
their personality. So, in either case, that would be a win. And just you changing you. And a lot of times I feel like we get into relationships where we're like, okay, I like it like that about them. I like that about them. I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. I can change those
Right.
things.
Yep. Right.
And
Yeah.
as that, as they say, never gonna happen kind of thing. So if you change yourself in your perspective, that's your chance to change them if they let themselves be open. And
Yep.
if they don't, like I said, they likely will leave.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be the example of what you want, and it's the one that could validate being a victim, meaning weaker, in a position, financially, whatever, the one with the hardship to leave, right?
Hmm.
So the one that we could call a victim of circumstance,
Hmm.
that's why you're the one to leave,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? Like, usually the one that upsets the apple cart, the one that leaves, is the one with the strength, the emotional strength.
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's self-loving and inner strength of self through love
Mm-hmm.
that moves us forward to make change.
Mm-hmm.
And the person that is the villain in the story, or the one that, won't listen, whatever, if that's the case, they're not bad and a villain. They're just the one that they're just in more pain and they don't yet have access. If you are feeling the call to make the change and it's in you and it's stirring and you even have inclination to do the work and the growth and take the step,
Mm-hmm.
you're the teacher for them. You doing it, like, to your point, that could start them. Even if you don't stay together, everybody's better off. If
Mm-hmm.
you act in love and truth and you stand in integrity and you're truly leaving something with love, loyalty, compassion, not attacking back and the fight of it all, it might not be right away, but everybody's going to wind up better off because you were an example of making the loving choice.
Yep.
Even though, like, you gotta, for me, I always will say, like, I'm willing to be a villain in somebody's story.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
okay with me.
Yeah.
It's okay with me because if that's what needs to happen, because villains in my story prompted change in me, that's how I realized that they weren't villains and that I wasn't a victim,
Mm-hmm.
was by that happening, and I wouldn't have had the experience otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And so that it's okay with me if I'm centered and I'm grounded in the love that I am, and I'm going to clean up, my life and live in love and do the best that I can and live to my highest with highest intention out into the world of love, then I can trust whatever happens to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to source that out. And if I have to be a villain for a little while, that's okay, because I'm clear. Like, I've cleared and made that space,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm clear in my intention, and if there's something I need to work on, I'll get the notification.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
tuned in, like, and I'm willing to face it. I'm not going to avoid it, or I'm willing to face the mirror and the stuff that's mine, and
Yeah.
not put it on somebody else.
Responsibility again. So I would like to leave our audience with a question that ties back into what you were saying so eloquently and beautifully. Appreciate that. So, what if your relationship is exactly where you need to be because you have created that as a soul contract in your life before you came here? What if the person you are with you feel might be not the right person, not the right guy, not the right gal? What if they are the right person? What if they are part of your soul group, having agreed to take you through some of these trials and tribulations in order for you to awaken, become aware of where you are, what you're here to do,
Mm,
to wake you?
that's
So let
beautiful.
us know. Thank you. Thank you. Let us know in the comments. And if you're
Yeah.
interested to, if you want to unwind it a little bit and let us know how you relate to that. And would love to hear from you all. And in the meantime, thank you again, Tammy, for being here today. It's great to have you again. And we will look forward to seeing you again next time. So
Thank you.
everybody, take good care of you. Stay in the flow to the best of your ability. Watch, staying awake, staying aware, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
And if you enjoyed today's episode, like, subscribe, hit that bell so you are notified about the next episode. That's going to be also super awesome, and we're going to talk a little bit more about our ego identity and how it gets constructed. We are looking forward to seeing your comments, and definitely let us know if you have any questions. We will be more than happy to touch on things that you would like us to. So thank you so much again for tuning in, and we will look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, take good care of you.